Ken Trahan along with Lenny Vangilder. It's our First NBC Bank Weekend Preview brought to you by First NBC Bank with 35 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana and the Florida Panhandle. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNOLA.com. Well, the dominant stories this week have been national, from the Patriots to Pacquiao's surgery to being sued to Mayweather saying he'll want another fight. Now he says, no way, he's a coward. Those have kind of dominated the news. But there are stories locally as well. Of course, college baseball, LSU, Missouri, two ranked teams, a couple of friends getting together. And again, LSU continues its quest not only for a national seed, but to win the SEC.
And it's not going to be easy because you gotta catch Vanderbilt. And you got to stay up with Texas A&M. It's basically a three-horse race here to the finish. And Vanderbilt's awfully good. You know, Vanderbilt got a day jump on LSU and A&M by winning the opening game of their series with Florida on Thursday night. So, there's that Sunday rain out at Georgia that could end up costing LSU a piece of the title. It's the way they do it. I understand why they do it that way. You got budgetary reasons, and it's hard to ask teams just to stay in, for longer periods of time, and you can't really make up those games. But a half a game could, in essence, cost LSU the championship. Yeah,
Vanderbilt, Florida going on right now, so LSU hoping to get hope there and take care of business against Missouri. Tulane, having lost 2 out of 3 to Houston last weekend, by everybody's account, very close to making the at-large bid, but probably not at this stage, so it's imperative that they win some series here the rest of the way.
It is, and I think right now, because of just where they're set up RPI-wise, it's not about RPI. It's all about where they finish in the league.
Conference.
Right, because as much as the people who have been on those committees will tell you it's not about what league you're from and all that type of thing, conference standing does matter. I think throw the Southern Miss makeup game coming up on Tuesday out. Let's just look at 6 conference games here. If Tulane can win 4 of 6 and get to 13-11 in the league, whether it's a sweep and 1 out of 3 in the other, or however it works out, 2 out of 3 both weekends, next weekend at Memphis, this weekend against South Florida, they're going to be okay. And that would be an extraordinary accomplishment for David Pierce in his first year after a team that had not been in a tournament for 6 years running, if he can pull that off. But first things first, final home weekend series against South Florida this weekend. And talking about friends and such, you got a couple of old faces coming back in, and Mark Kingston and Billy Mole on the South Florida staff who were at Tulane, big part of that 2005 College World Series team. A lot of people thought Kingston might be the guy when Rick Jones stepped aside last year, but instead he went to South Florida. Now David Pierce is here.
And speaking of baseball, Delgado making it to the regional tournament after they won their own region, Region 23, over Baton Rouge. They're going somewhere in Oklahoma. And again, it's kind of it's a little bit pressure packed when you have to beat one team and you got a 7-game series. And Joe Sherman said they kind of played like that, a little bit tight, and that he feels like maybe they'll play to their potential now.
Yeah, and, who knows, maybe some things will set up for them in terms of this. You've seen on TV or on the news the weather out of Oklahoma. They had 7.5 inches of rain in the Oklahoma City area. It has thrown into New Orleans-type chaos, if it will, the Oklahoma tournament, the Region 2 tournament, which was supposed to begin on Thursday. It's now postponed until Monday and at a totally different site. So there's a lot of things going on there. And at the end of the day, what it could produce is an advantage for Delgado, because the Oklahoma champion may have to come back very quickly and try to play host to this tournament. They don't know where they're going. They may not know where they're going until the day before the tournament starts. So they just know they're going to go to Oklahoma and play someone there and someone from Missouri for a chance to go back to the Junior College World Series.
And by the way, where are the Zephyrs and where have they been the last few days?
Oklahoma City. But they've gotten a couple in. That was a good thing. Thankfully they played in the afternoon, the day all of that rain came through. They got it in before those big showers. And we're sitting here talking about all of these torrential rains and such. Of course, we remember 20 years ago today, the May 8th flood. So we've seen these things here before, and it can cause problems.
Speaking of baseball, we have baseball at SportsNOLA.com coming up not only tonight, but tomorrow as well. Quarterfinal action in 5A, Brother Martin and Bird. Cinderella will emerge. These are the two lowest seeds remaining. Somebody's going to win and get to Sulphur.
Yeah, this was the bracket that blew up in the first round, and three lower seeds. One, Brother Martin, was the only high seed that survived this part of the bracket, and they are in position now to perhaps if they can take care of business at home to advance to the semifinals, which, even last year when they were very highly regarded, when they were a 2-3 seed last year, they couldn't get this far. So it could be a little bit of revenge, if you will, for the Crusaders to make it to Sulphur this year after they couldn't do so a year ago.
New Orleans Voodoo at home, concluding another 3-game homestand against the 3-time defending Arena Bowl champion Arizona Rattlers. You talk about a step up in class. They're coming off of a win last week. And no one can fault them for trying because they just keep signing players and trying to get better. Rod Harper, the former New Orleans Saint, the latest, and obviously they keep turning over their wide receiver tree. And, of course, they have to go with a backup quarterback and Brian Reeder now since Adam Kennedy was hurt last week.
Yeah, it's interesting, though. Harper refused to report, so we'll see what happens there if something changes. But it seems like the transaction ticker with the Voodoo, something is happening every day. But that's what you've got to do. You've got to be able to keep making moves to keep tweaking things, whether it's injuries, whether it's just trying to make your team better. And they've done a lot of that so far this year.
And last but not least, speaking of football, we have to refer to the Patriots situation because of the application to the Saints. When Roger Goodell made the statement he made at the time that ignorance or a lack of knowledge is no excuse, it's got to go to the top. This is not the first offense for the Patriots. And when I analyze the situation, it does not taint their Super Bowl win. They killed the Colts. It wouldn't have mattered if those balls were balloons. They'd have won that game. So it's just the spirit of what transpires. And you have a lot of quarterbacks coming out and saying now that, look, we deflated balls or we liked them bigger and inflated balls, whatever the case may be. The difference is this. Did they actually go and take them from the officials' room? That's larceny, basically, and it's completely violating the rules of the game.
It's going to be interesting to see just exactly what the punishments are going to be. And, of course, people are going to compare it to the Saints situation with the bounty scandal and how Tom Brady is going to get treated in all of this. Here's your a future Hall of Fame quarterback, a 4-time Super Bowl champion, the defending Super Bowl champion. What's going to happen there? It's going to be very interesting to see.
This day, this is what I really believe, and we'll close on this. It's all about don't lie to the commissioner. If the Saints would have come clean, I really think the penalties would have been far less severe. I'd like to think that would be the case. I think they were way too severe in retrospect, but I said that at the time because a lot of the things that were alleged didn't happen. That said, and Paul Tagliabue wiped clean some of those records in the aftermath. But I think the biggest thing here is if you lie to Goodell, you're going to pay a very, very steep price.
Now, the one thing about that is the penalties that got reduced were all geared towards players.
Of course.
So there's that.
Which gets back to my original point about the line. That's what I'm making.
But keep that in mind about Brady. Right. Is that the player penalties weren't as severe, and then they were reduced in some cases to inexistent. So just keep that in mind in the whole Brady situation. Will the team get dinged? I don't think there's any question, and I think the Saints case set a precedent there that there's going to be penalties to the team, be it fines, be it draft picks, whatever the case may be. They're not going to have to return the trophy. Don't worry about that. But I'll be very interested to see how this plays out, and obviously we're going to see a lot of comparison to the situation a couple of years back with the Saints.
Okay, Rocky, I'm Apollo. Ain't going to be no rematch.
No rematch.
So don't want one.
Don't want one. Okay, thank you.
I thought he'd get the line. I don't know. Come on.
Nah,
it's all good. And guess what? We don't want to see a rematch.
No, look, it was one of those things. I've got a lot of mixed feelings about, the whole situation there and how it was handled from a media perspective, people getting denied credentials. I just thought it was a bad situation, everything about it. I know it was, very appealing and trying to be this, return of boxing and stuff and to take it back to a former time, coincidentally on the same day as the Kentucky Derby. It was like we step back in time 70, 80 years, whatever the case may be. But the whole way everything had gone down in the last week just left a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, speaking of Joe Sherman, he liked American Pharoah, so he's probably smiling right now.
Very possible, yeah.
Yo, Adrian. That's enough. All right, Lenny, thanks. Have a great week.
All right, we'll see you Monday.
That's our First NBC Bank Weekend Preview brought to you by First NBC Bank with 35 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana and the Florida Panhandle. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNOLA.com. He's Lenny. I'm Kenny. You're you. Have a great weekend, and God bless.